Hello, I'm Jonasz Rewiński and you're watching TVP World Talks, where every word matters. Students from 3 universities in Serbia have called for a general strike as part of a nationwide anti-corruption movement that has been gathering momentum for the past 3 months. Initially sparked by a deadly roof collapse in the city of Novi Sad, the initiative has risen to prominence after a forceful response from the authorities led many more citizens to take sides with the protesting students. So what does the current situation tell us about the condition of Serbia's civil society? Are the tensions likely to rise even further? Joining us now is Marta Szpala, Senior Fellow at the Central European Department Center for Eastern Studies. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello.
So would you say that Alexander Vucic is in deep trouble now, or are we not there yet in terms of the threshold that the protests could be about to reach?
Yeah, I think he's in trouble, and he also know it because the protests are everywhere. Actually, this is a difference from the other ways of protest which were there in Serbia. Protests are happening actually every year since 2016. Alexander Vucic himself, he took the power as a leader of the party, as a at the beginning deputy prime minister in 2012. So we see that vast majority of he being in power was marked by the protest. But this time, first of all, students are raising. It wasn't the case before. Usually it was political parties. Now you said 3 universities, but actually this means that most important universities are now occupied and blocked by students. They are not working. There are students there. They are protesting. Also a lot of schools, high schools and also primary school, especially in Novi Sad and Belgrade. Belgrade, the capital city, Novi Sad, the place when the catastrophe at the railway station took place. They are blocked. They are not working. They are supported by the kids, by former pupils, by the parents. People are demanding justice. This is the thing. Still, it is about this catastrophe and finding the people accountable for that. We have to remember 15 people died in the catastrophe, but so far what we are seeing, like the judiciary and the prosecutors, they are not accusing anyone. And this is the main problem, and this is why these protests are spreading, because now we have a prison. In prison we have the activists who are organizing the protest, now not the people who are responsible for that. And students are speaking about 2 things. One is those who are directly responsible for what happened. We have to also remember that the railway station was open without any permission from the authorities. So there was no technical approval of the modernization of the railway station. So this is one thing. But the second thing is political responsibility. And the current prime minister of Serbia was at that time when the agreement about the modernization of the railway station, when they were signed, he was in power in Novi Sad, so he is also somehow responsible for that. The strategy of the prime minister and the president Alexander Vucic actually is to wait and see. People are protesting, and as I said, it's not only Belgrade, but this is all major cities. So now protests are taking place every day. People are standing on the streets and in silence for 50 minutes to honor the victims of the catastrophe, and they are everywhere. There are,
Is it just major cities, though? Because, like in Georgia, for example, many are pointing out that people in major cities are taking to the streets, but rural areas, small towns, this is not exactly the same. Many people support the government there. So is it the same as Georgia in this case, would you say?
No.
Is it actually different?
Yeah, this is this difference, that there are protests in every city, like cities who have 20,000 people in south and east and actually everywhere. And this is also something which is quite dangerous for the current government, because media are actually quite controlled by the government. So when something is happening in Belgrade, usually people in the rural areas, they don't see it, but now we have the students and the activists protesting everywhere. So people also in rural areas, as you said, they are seeing that protests are going on, so that's why they are spreading all over the country. But as I said, you said that Alexander Vucic is pro-Russian. I would say that he is generally balancing between West and East, and he has the support of everybody. This is also the problem, that the foreign countries, West, US, he is in very good relation with Donald Trump. We have yesterday we had the visit of the representative of European Union. They didn't mention the protest. It was very I don't know. It was actually a mistake of the European Union, because the representative of the European Union said that they are congratulating the reforms and what Serbia is implementing, and they didn't mention what is happening. What is happening at the streets. And somehow the protests are about the rule of law, accountability, democracy, and the institution. We said judiciary and the prosecutor to trace and to explain what happened in Novi Sad. But EU is not supporting that, and for society it's quite striking that EU is supporting officially, or at least vocally, rule of law in Serbia, but when people are demanding that on the street, they are not supporting the protests.
So would you say that this might change if it comes to violence, for example? And I'm talking about violence from the authorities. According to the Balkan Insight, for example, the government has this strategy of basically demonizing the protesters. It has been done before. They were doing this during the COVID pandemic, later on during the protests against lithium mining. The state-controlled media would always paint a very grim picture of the protesters, delegitimizing them, stripping them of their dignity and so on. Do you think that this sort of campaign could ultimately result in clashes on the streets? And if so, would you say that the European politicians and authorities could change their tune a bit?
I think we see this like low profile violence from the very beginning of the protest in November. So protesters are attacked by masked, sometimes policemen, some kind of security guy who are provoking them. Actually, the protesters are quite aware of the strategy of the government, as you said, to provoke some tension, to provoke some clashes. So we see that during every protest, we have this kind of guards of the protest who are trying to prevent anything to happen. But as I said, government is putting the activists in the custody. They are also cases when the activists and protesters, students, they were beaten in various places, usually after the protest. So the government also is trying to scare the students. They are saying that they will be stripped of the stipendium they are getting, so the money they are getting from the states for the good grades or something. And also there is a lot of pressure towards the professors in high schools and at the university to reopen the school. So they want all education system to work again. But as I said, as for now, the people are quite unified, and they are still demanding, as I said, justice. So this is quite interesting that government would like to somehow navigate this discussion that the protests are about, taking the power and changing the government. But students are quite open about it. We want our institution to work. We want to see the result of the work of judiciary and prosecutor. We want people to be put on trial for what happened. But as I said, this demand, it's quite dangerous for the government, because it can uncover all the corrupt deals and all nepotism which is in the system, and that's why government is so resistant to fulfill these demands, which we can say they are quite simple. We just want to know who was responsible for the catastrophe and for the modernization of the railway station, which caused the death of 15 people.
So how deeply entrenched are the authorities? Can these protests actually dislodge the government or cause some major reshuffle at this stage? Or would you say there is not enough momentum still?
I would say that this government is somehow, let's put it like this. This regime actually it's built on uh, unaccountability of the people in power. So they are somehow operating like mafia. So if you are with us, you won't be responsible for anything or any misdoing. So, and this is, it brings and builds loyalty among the government and people who are supporting it. That's why the trials, and even, if one person will be put on trial, it somehow weaken the consistency of the governing elite, and that's why it is so dangerous for the government, and that's why the government don't want any trials to happen, or just they don't want to disclose any documentation because they don't want to put anybody on spot because of that, what happened, because as I said, they they are buying loyalty of the supporters and the people in the government by granting them total impunity, and that's why it is so problematic, as I said, because it's happened in Novi Sad, because people really high in the hierarchy of the party are responsible, especially at least politically, for that what happened. It is why the government really don't want to this case to be resolved and any trials to go on.
And we're going to have to park our conversation there. Marta Szpala was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for helping us explore the situation in Serbia.
Thank you very much.
And I'm Jan You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news and updates.